Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our virtual alumni workshop on career and well-being. Before we begin, we are going to take a moment here to pause so that everyone has a chance to log on. While we wait, feel free to type your name, grad year if you're an alum, and what brought you here today in the chat box, and we will begin in just a moment. Well, my name is Molly Clevin, and I'm from the University of Minnesota Duluth Alumni Relations team. Today's Alumni Career Workshop is brought to you in partnership with our office and the UMD Career Center. You will learn about different strategies related to career well-being, whether you plan on staying at your current job or looking for a change. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Alumni Relations website. You will receive an email with the link once that is ready. Finally, at the end of the session, we will have time to answer live questions. To submit a question, use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen, or feel free to use the chat box. Now to introduce our guests. Today, we are joined by Sue Holm, Career Development Assistant Director, and Cheryl Yeaton, a Career Counselor, both from the UMD Career Center. Sue's passion is to serve students by helping them explore majors, careers, and applying to graduate or professional schools. She is a Gallup certified strengths coach and enjoys working with people to discover their strengths. Cheryl enjoys connecting with students in a variety of ways, including resumes, cover letters, personal statements, diversity statements, LinkedIn profile development, and much more. It is now my pleasure to hand it over to Sue and Cheryl.
All right, well, I am going to kick off this session. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking a part of your day to spend it with us to talk a little bit about career and well-being and checking in for the new year. We like to do these sessions in January as a way for us to just kind of refocus and take a look at where we might be at and where we might want to go.
We just made it in on the last day of the month. So here we are back to check in with all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just an opening discussion, again, just feel free to, think about or just drop in the chat, maybe something that you're looking forward to. We like to kind of start this on a positive note. And I'm going to share that this picture is one that I got off the internet, but it is of Alaska. And interestingly enough, Cheryl and I both got to go to Alaska last year. So we both enjoy traveling. And so I'm actually looking forward to doing a little bit of traveling in this new year as well. Cheryl, what's something you're looking forward to?
I would say the same. Our family now with Alaska has been to all 50 states, so I guess we'll have to go international for our next trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what you're looking forward to can be personal, career, educationally, just anything you want to share that you're looking forward to now or throughout the session. So our first sort of check-in for the new year is just to check in and see where you're at. So when you think about your career and your life, because they do intertwine, are you feeling energized? Are you excited? Are you thinking of some things that you can say you're looking forward to, excited about? Or is it time to maybe think about some adjustments, either big or small, in either or both of those areas? So that's what we will work through today throughout the workshop to have you think about some of those things. So just a little review. We've had some things happen recently. For those of you, you probably remember in some way, shape, or form, looking way back. So about the time I started in this office in 2008 and was pretty much hit right in the face with the Great Recession around 2008, 2009, and a lot of people lost their jobs. So we actually saw a lot of alumni. They were job seeking for the first time in years. They were, maybe re-careering, all that kind of stuff. So that may have impacted your life in some way, or those around you, your family or significant others, parents, grandparents, friends. So jumping from there, we actually saw some common parallels between that and then when the great pandemic, Sue and I were saying how, the great's the best word for this, but I guess it was sort of a big part of our lives. So great in like a big monumental sort of way. But there were some similarities between the recession and the pandemic as far as a lot of job changing or people losing jobs. In this case, businesses were shutting down, things were going virtual, a lot of things happening. And then we talked about last year, if you were able to attend, we came up upon the great resignation when folks were leaving jobs in record numbers, often without something else in place. There was just, again, a lot of movement and a lot of change. So that brings us to where we are currently. And you may have heard our president referred to as the Great Exhaustion. We're really busy. When you run into folks maybe you haven't seen for a while, how are you? I'm tired, I'm busy, I'm running here, I'm running there. And we just seem to be in the last few years kind of maybe trying to make up for some lost time there and kind of jumping back into everything. And it's tending to make people feel a little bit stretched thin in a lot of areas. So that will kind of segue into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Cheryl and I were talking about this and kind of coming up with some ideas and everything, the great exhaustion kept coming up. And so then, of course, that begs the question, why are we exhausted, right? What's keeping us so busy? And many of us are juggling multiple priorities. So we wanted to just kind of throw it out to you again. Feel free to put this in the chat if you're interested, or just jot a couple of things down on, what are some of the things that you're juggling? When I was looking at graphics for this, I put in juggling, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, there's juggling. And then maybe I'm juggling with my juggling objects are on fire, or maybe now I'm juggling and I'm riding a unicycle across a tightrope, right? So there might be different levels of juggling that we're doing, but some examples are, for those of us that have kids or maybe aging parents, maybe now you've been pulled back into the office, so adding that commute back to your job, or maybe you're working 2 jobs or attending graduate school. So kind of taking a look at, why are we so exhausted?
So this is mine. I actually recently, after talking with a coworker about just who also does some coaching and counseling type work of just, balance and finding balance in life. And my coworker had reminded me of this idea of the 24 hours a day or the 168-hour week, to just really think about where your time is going and be intentional in looking at that. So I actually did take the time here in the new year to map out, how much time, obviously there's the obvious things you're working, you're eating, you're commuting, all that kind of stuff. So I found it actually surprising. I found that a lot of my time I maybe hadn't accounted for. I maybe wasn't paying attention to how much time I was spending driving my kids and how much time that actually takes, because it's easy to say, I'll just run here, I'll run there, I'll run an errand. And so I had a lot of time that I feel like I wasn't really using intentionally. And I had probably more free time actually than I thought if I was just maybe better allotting my time. So it was kind of an eye opener for me to revisit this. So this might be something that you take time to do just to see where your time is going, to see what is keeping you so busy, and maybe where you want to reassign some things and just make some adjustments and some tweaks. And in the resources document there is a reference to this, I think, as well. So but yeah, just one way to kind of look at how you're spending your time and where it's actually going.
Yeah, so kind of along those lines, what is keeping us busy, right? Again, Cheryl talked a little bit about COVID, but even really in the past few years, personally and professionally, what has maybe changed for you? Again, some of us are working 2 jobs, or we have a full-time job and a side job. Maybe, lack of raises or inflation has kind of, we've had to add something else to our schedule. We also like to talk about this whole work-life balance, right? And I think that sometimes in talking about balance, that puts a little bit of pressure on us, like we have to balance this. And really, I love Cheryl came up with this term in terms of work-life navigation, because it isn't necessarily a matter of balancing everything. Excuse me, it's a matter of how do we navigate all of these different areas. So what are some of our challenges in this area, right? Again, maybe we have a demanding work schedule, and that could be certain times of the month or year or busier, or we have to now travel for work. So that might be what's keeping us busy. Again, if we're working from home, sometimes other people don't necessarily recognize we're working from home. And so partners or spouse or kids, sort of assume that if you're home, you're available. And that can be a little bit challenging. Some of us are taking care of aging parents. I know that I personally have a parent who is a couple hours away. So not only am I having to kind of navigate that whole area, then I'm having to add additional driving time for in-person visits with him, taking him to the doctor, all of those kinds of things. And then we have the general cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, errand running, car maintenance, all of those things that are just life things that we have to navigate and that are keeping us busy. So there might be some additional challenges that have come up, right? Like the location of the job and where you want to live. So again, maybe during the pandemic, you were able to work remotely, and a lot of people moved. A lot of people moved to a different part of the country or a different part of the state. And now they might be pulled back into the office. So now they're having to kind of relocate again. And then there's challenges with that, what is sort of the availability of daycare or housing in that area? So that can be, again, some additional challenges with this. Again, the location, aging parents, things like that, or anything else. So kind of thinking about your life and what is keeping you so busy in navigating this whole work-life navigation. And another interesting thing I just wanted to kind of talk about here was we have this sort of boomerang effect. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a few weeks back, and she talked about kind of missing some of the things about the pandemic. Now, granted, it was a terrible time. It was a very terrible time. So I'm not saying that, but what some of the things that came out of the pandemic that some people appreciated was, gosh, maybe you got to spend more time in nature. Some people were able to go for walks during the day and spend a little bit more time outside, or were able to spend a little bit more time at home with family. She was saying that, one of her kids was like, gosh, I really miss just making meals together and having, dinner together instead of us picking something up quickly and running to another event. So more time for reading or no commute, whatever. So just kind of thinking about, was there anything that you really were able to kind of lean into during COVID in terms of something that might have been simpler or kind of took some time out for you? Because what we're talking about in this whole session is really sort of this idea of a holistic well-being. The whole person shows up to work, right? Like your personal life and your work life do intersect. You can't just sort of check yourself at the door when you walk into the office. Now, granted, you can in some ways, but the whole person shows up in all of these areas. So one of the resources that is on your resource list, and I wanted to point out to you, is that Gallup has done a lot of work looking at well-being, and they have come up with the 5 essential elements of well-being. So in order, this is what they are. The first one is career, and this is how they define that: liking what you do. The second area is social, having strong relationships and love in your life. Financial, effectively managing your economic life. Physical well-being, so having good health and energy to do things on a daily basis. And then community, which is a sense of engagement that you have in the area that you live. And they said, regardless of those 5 essential elements, not regardless, but within those 5 essential elements of well-being, career well-being is the first. They do believe that that is the first, because that is the foundation that everything else kind of relies on. So if you want to do a little bit more digging on that, you can certainly, again, I put a link to a couple of these in the resources. They also have written a couple of books that are very informative on this.
Well, and with career and social being so high on the well-being list that Sue had just shown there, we wanted to sort of check in. It's hard to detangle, like Sue said, your career and your life, and sometimes they intentionally overlap, and sometimes unintentionally. But just think, how are things? How are things for you currently in your career? And then how are things currently in your life? So even just take a second to think, here's some things that are going well, or some things that you want to work on in kind of both of those spaces. So before we go into some of the other kind of exercises we'll do, just kind of think, where are you at? And I know, the chat is available. If in the beginning we asked what folks are looking forward to. So if you didn't share earlier, and feel free at any time to drop something in the chat. We enjoy seeing your comments since we're not seeing you on the screen. So if there are things you're looking forward to, there are things maybe if you feel comfortable sharing, things that you're maybe wanting to change or challenging, things that are keeping you busy, feel free to share that at any time with us. And Molly said there'll be some time for questions at the end. So thinking of where you are currently in both of those areas. So here's just another, Sue shared the information from Gallup in our profession and career development, career counseling. We like to look at a more holistic view, and this is just one other way of looking at wellness and well-being, and just where you're at in each of these areas. So here, some of these overlap with the information that we just looked at, but there's a little further breakdown that adds maybe some areas about spirituality or recreation. I was recently meeting with someone after doing a career assessment, which maybe some of you have done in the past, that our office offers for students and alums. But we were really trying to figure out what this person was wanting answered by this career assessment. Was it something that would impact their choices in their career? Was it more furthering education and challenging themselves mentally and intellectually? Was it recreation? They shared that they hadn't really had a lot of time for hobbies lately. So it was just kind of figuring out even how do you want this to inform choices you're making in whatever area. And in this particular case, the person ended up pursuing more schooling. But sometimes it's hard to kind of tease out like what you even want to be kind of working on. So think about with these examples here, and it shows you kind of some numbers there, so you could rate yourself in all of these areas. But just if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat. Otherwise, you can just maybe jot some notes down to yourself, or just reflect. But what are some that you feel strong about? You feel like I'm putting a lot of attention here, or this is going well. This is a real strength for me. This is maybe something I can kind of leverage to work on other areas. And then maybe just in your own estimation, what are some areas that maybe need more attention that you would like to work on more intentionally, where you're feeling like you'd maybe give yourself a little lower score in some of these areas? So take just a minute or so to actually write some of those down, or share with us if you feel comfortable, just to make some notes to yourself so you can maybe pinpoint some areas that you want to focus on as we go through the workshop and beyond.
This then kind of transitions us a little bit more into, again, career and well-being check-in for the new year. And I was at a workshop a few weeks ago, and again, a couple of just super powerful questions that we wanted to share here. And one of the things she asked was, what do you want more of in your personal life? So what I want us to do next is to have just a little bit of time to reflect and think of, what do you want more of? And this could be, like I have on the screen here, be, do, have, or try. So this is just strictly in your personal life. So some examples, again, they don't have to be an example, or it doesn't have to be something that you're interested in, but sometimes people want better health, or they want time with family or friends or pets, or sometimes people are more introverted and they want more introverted time. Sometimes people are more extroverted and they want more extroverted time, or travel, reading, whatever the case may be. These are just some examples. But what I want to do is kind of like what Cheryl just did. I just want to give you a minute and I want you to just brainstorm again. Feel free to share it in the chat, or if you just want to jot down some notes. It's a simple question, but it's a big question, right? What do you want more of in your personal life? So I'm just going to give you 1 minute right here for you to jot down, what do you want more of in your personal life? So I think that was about a minute. Again, some of these questions are, some of us are a little bit slower to process. I know that myself, I need a little bit more time to think about things. So if you're needing more time, just feel free to jot down that question and you can revisit it at a time where you do have a little bit more time. When you start thinking about what do you want more of, the next piece of that is to get a little bit more specific. For some people, let's say the example is, I want better health. Well, what does that really mean to you? Does that mean better food choices? Or if time with family is something that you say you want more of, what does that really mean? Maybe I want to play board games with my family, or I want to just have time to discuss our day, or I just want to do more activities in general, or maybe more social time with friends. So getting a bit more specific in terms of what do you want. From there, then we can create those action steps. So when I share with you about action steps, I think also sometimes some of us can get into a thought of, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and this and this and this. And that may be true, but what is just one small thing that you can do, just one step? So especially if you're starting to think about bigger things in your life, how can you break that down into a little bit smaller, more manageable steps or bites? So, for example, if health was something that you wanted to do more of in the new year, maybe I just want to eat a home cooked meal, 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or grab a healthier, quick food option. Again, maybe that's just 1 day a week. Again, starting out small. For if family and spending more time with family, maybe you do want activity on the weekend. Maybe your weekends are a little bit more free. Or 1 night a week, you're like, okay, Wednesdays I'm going to reserve for board games, or someday that you're not juggling a lot of other things. For exercise, we hear that a lot, right? During the new year, I want to exercise, I want to go to the gym. So maybe for some people, really kind of setting that schedule, and this is really, kind of, we're all a little bit different as to what works for us. For some people, it's like, I'm literally going to schedule, I'm going to the gym these 3 days on my calendar. Other people, it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. My work or my life's a little more unpredictable, but maybe after lunch, I'm going to go for a walk. Or again, maybe on the weekends, I have a little bit more time. So I want to do some sort of a fun activity, like go snowshoeing or go bowling or skating or something like that. And again, with that sort of introverted, extroverted piece, if you're looking for more social time, maybe you want to do those activities with someone else. Or if you want more alone time, maybe that would be a way for you to kind of be able to build in a little bit more time, or a little time to yourself. The other one we hear a lot about is relaxation, right? What is relaxing for you? Because what is relaxing for you is not relaxing necessarily for somebody else. And I am going to share that I signed up for a meditation class because I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm going to do meditation and I know it's good for you and all of that kind of stuff. And it was on Sunday nights at 6 o'clock at night. And I went to 2 of the sessions. And then I started getting stressed out that I wasn't going to be able to make the sessions because I had all these other things going on. So I'm like, this totally defeats the purpose, right? So again, we just need to find what's going to work for us. So for maybe you, or for you, maybe it's journaling or just being out in nature or going fishing or whatever the case may be. What is relaxing for you? And then what might you be able to just fit in a little bit with regard to that? And to that point, I am a big fan of what I call micro relaxations. Again, it would be great if I could have a whole weekend to myself or a week on the beach in Florida by myself. That's not necessarily realistic for me right now. But maybe something that might be relaxing for me is I'm just going to listen to music that I really enjoy while I'm cooking dinner, or I'm going to be present in conversations, or I'm going to take a bath at the end of the day. Or for me, sometimes like the days get really busy and noisy. So I like to just like not even have any music on or anything like that sometimes when I'm driving. So again, anything that works for you, just small little action steps that just can kind of move you a little bit towards what do I want more of in my life? Which leads us to the next slide, Cheryl.
Yes, so that brings us to, so I get to talk about what do you want to do less of, but it kind of to go back to what Sue was saying on the previous slide though too, we really tried to, when we were going through examples, think of with some of those activities like Sue mentioned, snowshoeing or bowling, or really trying to factor in that how much time you wanted alone and or with people, because that's definitely something we've seen, especially in recent years because of some of the shifts in the workplace. And it's definitely coming through in what I've seen in the chat, as well as some of the questions that were submitted ahead of time. And I think we've all been wrestling with, working from home, and is that working with your personality and what you need, or if it's being in the office, and is that giving you time for whether it's just quiet time for reflection, or is it that you're missing the social aspect of things? So definitely that's a topic that's come up a lot in recent years, that folks are really processing how to get that. And that could be something that, as we'll continue to address throughout the workshop, but is that something you look for more in work or outside of work? Can you balance it out that way, where I want more social time, so I can find more in other areas? But that's something definitely to keep in mind. So again, we only have 24 hours in a day. I realized that recently when I did that previous exercise I showed with a 168-hour week. So what is not exactly energizing you? What's maybe stressing you out or making you feel exhausted? And then how can we address those things? Again, work life, personal life, social, but just a few examples that we came up with. One way to connect with folks, and that we've done in recent years, certainly is connecting through social media, electronically, but what's a good balance of how much you want that, and then when does it become maybe sort of a time waster and keeping you from doing something else that you might want to do. I have an example. As we've been working on this workshop, I have my friend Elijah loves to go fishing and has this fishing wheel on his desk at work, so obviously I took it. But just for a little inspiration, but the idea is you spin the wheel and it has multiple times on here, go fishing, and then other things are wash the car, clean the basement, things like that. So, and it's magnetized. So not only are there more choices, more chances you'll get go fishing, but there's magnets in there. So it always lands on go fishing. So if you kind of know what you want to do, whether it's go fishing, then, let's tackle what we can take out to make room for that. Sue and I often joke about the boxes in the attic, basement, wherever. What is even in those? Why are they still there? For me, I guess a real eye opener lately was I do have 2 very busy kids in middle school, and we had missed going to an event at UMD that they enjoy going to, since they've gone to for many years as children. We come up for a lot of events here, but One in particular was Soror Latinx, if anyone has attended that in the past. And the kids just asked me one day, like, well, why didn't we go? Like, what, did it happen already? Did we miss it? And I realized that they had had something scheduled that night, so I just skipped it. Well, they had a practice or a lesson or something like that. So when they were saying that they were missing some of these things that were maybe a little more events or, a little more spontaneous, we've kind of pulled back and actually taken them out of some lessons that they were taking that they enjoyed, but weren't necessarily loving, and have been a little more intentional in not signing up for things that have, commitments maybe weekly or multiple times a week. So we have more space to just kind of do those more spontaneous or things that just are of interest. So we're not having to decline things that come up that we want to do because we're too overly scheduled. So now is the time, and also about a minute. So we tried to start with what you want more of, but now let's also clean house a little bit and think about maybe some things that at this point in your life that you just want less of. So similarly, we'll take a minute or so to actually write some of those down. And again, if you feel comfortable sharing, drop those in the chat. And yeah, I'll just let you think about that for a minute. Well, that may or may not have been enough time, but something to definitely keep thinking about as you move forward, of just looking for things that you can cut back on or get rid of to create that space to bring in more of the things you want, job, personal, social, just whatever areas you identified maybe that you'd like to grow in or change in. Are there things that aren't completely fulfilling to you? We've all probably tried a lot of these things, whether it's being on boards or volunteer work, giving back to the community, family activities, but which ones do you feel like you can let go? And which ones are ones that you want to keep because you do actually get excited? It's something you're looking forward to. It's energizing. Kind of going back to our first slide, second slide, I guess, when Sue showed the picture of Alaska. When we were in Alaska this past summer, my 12-year-old, after going to the Alaska Sea Life Center, said, I think I might want to work with animals. We did kind of a behind the scenes tour and asked me to reach out to the aquarium, the Great Lakes Aquarium. So now we're volunteering there. But the nice thing with that is that you can pick your own schedule. You don't have to do it on a certain day or weekly, or you can kind of pick when it works with your schedule. So it's a lot easier. They just schedule with the Google Calendar. So it feels like something we're moving towards, because when we do it, we want to do it, versus feeling like it's a weekly commitment that we're having to just kind of fit in with everything else. Financially speaking, when we looked at the both of the different kind of holistic well-being wellness wheels, financial is on there as well. That's always something to be looking at. And if that's something that you feel like maybe financially that was an area that was strong for you, or you can reallocate some things, and maybe finding someone else to do some of the things that are not energizing you, or maybe using that to sort of trade with people who maybe you don't like mowing the lawn, but you're happy to watch someone else's kids, and you can do some sort of trade that kind of opens up social circles too. So brainstorm, of course, some things, options of things that you can get rid of that would reduce your stress. But if you feel like when you're letting something go that it's something you're going to be missing, or you feel like that's hard to get rid of, and that's going to actually make you feel like you're missing out on something, then think of other options that you can actually feel good when you maybe release that or let go of that or pass it on to somebody else?
Yeah, so we wanted to start out with kind of talking a little bit about something that might be a little easier maybe for you to kind of determine is, what can I what do I want more of in my personal life? What do I want less of in my personal life? And kind of brainstorming some things around that. Because the next piece is really talking about your career, so how is your career well-being? And Cheryl and I and those of us in our office work with people on a daily basis just to kind of check in and see where we're at with regard to that. So again, I'm going to give you about a minute to think about this. And the question now is, what do you want more of in terms of your career or career well-being? So in terms of your career, what energizes you? And maybe if it's helpful, think back over the last couple of weeks or a couple of months to maybe some of the things that you've done, some of the tasks that you've done, and think about ones that, gosh, I really like doing this. This really energizes me about my position. So what do you want more of? And I'll give you, again, about a minute to think about this. Again, feel free to share it in the chat or just jot down your ideas. Okay, so that was about a minute. And again, we recognize that these are big questions, even though they seem to be small questions. What do you want? Feel free to use a little bit of time later to think about this, because you know what the next question is when you think about your career and your career well-being, what do you want less of? So again, kind of looking over the past couple of weeks, couple of months, what do you want less of? What drains you daily, or work responsibilities or projects or whatever it might be? And what do you want less of? So again, I'm going to give you about a minute to think about that. Okay, so that was about a minute. Maybe that was helpful for you. Maybe that just scratched the surface. But now we can kind of move forward in our next slide.
So, what did you discover? That could be something that you jot some notes down about what you're thinking, feeling. I saw there were a lot of good examples in the chat of things that were draining or areas where people weren't being recognized for their work or not being allowed to maybe, work with teams, if that's what drives you. So, what did you learn? What did you discover from that? And feel free to continue to add things to the chat, jot down some notes of what what maybe you learned from actually taking a little time here together to think about some things. And then now it's kind of looking at next steps from there. So have your values shifted? There's a link in a previous workshop that we did, we provided prior to the workshop a values matcher activity. And that is included in the resources. And another example that we also added this year of kind of looking at values, but what's changed? Have things shifted? Is it something that maybe you need to relook at some things? Are you wanting something different than maybe what you wanted when you went into this job, 6 months ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever? So have your values shifted? And is it something that you can make changes in your current job or role? Can you approach your team, your manager, your colleagues to see about taking on some new or different responsibilities? Some new different ways of working, different style of working with maybe some different people that you haven't been able to work with. And we did also include too, because a lot of people ask at these workshops that we do, and when we meet with people individually, and in some of the questions that we saw from folks that, what skills should I be developing? So if you have time and the space in your life that maybe you're wanting to grow, there's another link also in the resources document of just kind of, what are sort of the up and coming skills that employers are going to be looking for. So that's something to take a look at if you're looking to maybe further your education or training, or just, getting more time working on skills that that you already have, but just haven't had time to strengthen them. And this is a big one. I feel like this comes up whether it's with work, with alums, students, friends, anywhere. It's just a big topic. People are really processing. It wasn't maybe an option for us a few years ago. The jobs just were what they were, and you worked where you did. And now it's, people are realizing that, I like working remotely. Personally, I come to the office. I really didn't like working remotely. But hybrid or flex time, become options when they maybe really weren't in just a few years ago. So really thinking about, based on what's going on in your life, your personal life, your career life, your social life, and everything, are there some areas that you could be maybe asking for some things or exploring options, and finding out if those are available to you in your current position. Or when exploring, either reflecting on that or maybe connecting with folks that might be in a position to answer those questions, finding out if the things that are important to you, your values, and what you want more of and what you want less of, does that align with where you are currently in your work life? Or is it, maybe a shift needs to happen? Maybe it's you still enjoy your job or the industry, but maybe there's another employer that offers something more in line with your values, or the type of work schedule or balance that you're looking for. So thinking about where you can kind of optimize your chances of being able to, integrate more of what you're wanting, and kind of pulling back on some of the things that maybe aren't energizing you. And you may also find that in looking at kind of this more holistic well-being view that, things are pretty good, and that you're just missing some things that maybe you could add something in your, social life, or you want to start a new hobby, you want to take a class, you want to, start a business on the side. I will not be playing in a band myself personally. That suggestion, I really wasn't even that good in high school band, but I like to do art. So in my spare time, I paint things and I draw things just for family and friends. But at some point, is that something I might want to do for money? I don't know. At this point, it seems to fit well in kind of in my personal life, and it's just a way that I can connect with people. But how does that sit with you? Are there things that you want to in work? Maybe a part-time gig, or is it something that you just want to work on maybe socially or in your spare time?
Yeah, so kind of based on those questions, again, realizing that these are even though they're small questions, simple questions, they're big questions, right? So give yourself some time to kind of think about it, process through these different ones. Maybe you're feeling like you want to pay more attention or spend a little bit more time thinking about career stuff. Maybe you want to spend a little bit more time talking or looking at personal stuff. But based on whatever it is that you've determined, what action steps can you take? For some people, maybe it really is, I want to look for another position. For some people, it might be like, we just had on those previous slides. No, I like the organization I work for. I just, maybe the role isn't right, or I want to be in a different department, or I started out in XYZ doing this, but I really want to kind of move into a different area within my current organization. Again, we hear a lot from people, we want to start our own business. Again, that's great. So then, what are some of the steps that you can do that? Do you need to contact like the Small Business Development Center and set up a individual meeting with them about how do I really start this? I've got this idea, or I've been doing this thing, and how can I kind of run with that? For some people, they want to pursue another degree. So they might decide, you know what, I think I really am at a point where now I want to pursue an MBA or a master's degree or a PhD or something like that. So within all of this, when you kind of start looking at what are you looking to do, my personal, thoughts on it is, how can you just take a small step versus diving off the cliff, right? If you're a cliff diver, that's great. If you are a risk taker and you want to go ahead and jump off that cliff, that's great. We can help you figure out how to do that. But for some of us, it's like, maybe I just want to take a small step, right? So maybe I'm just going to even start looking at new jobs, or I want to start looking through LinkedIn and seeing what does an XYZ person do? Or if I'm thinking this might be a role I'm interested in, what were some of the jobs that they had prior to their current role, so I can kind of see the progression? Or maybe I really do want to look at different employers. So if I'm looking at different employers or different roles, can I have a career conversation with somebody who's in that particular organization or in that particular role? And that might help me then learn a little bit more about, what do I need to do to prepare? Here's the skills that I have now. Here's what I bring. But what else do I need in order to start making this jump? And it could be that you just need some additional online certification program. You need to maybe take a class to learn something new, or maybe it's just a matter of packaging your skills a little bit differently. For some, Cheryl already mentioned, we do have career assessments that are available that sometimes people find very helpful. Happy to do that. Get a mentor or a career coach. A lot of people really, really benefit from having mentors who can kind of help walk them through. We can help you with the career coaching piece as well. Or maybe you need some sort of online certification. So take, action steps. You don't have to just quit your job tomorrow and jump in to something. You can start kind of thinking ahead and taking smaller steps. So my new favorite saying is, you don't have to boil the ocean, right? What are just some action steps that you can take? One small step that just kind of gets you a little bit closer to whatever it is that you're interested in. You don't have to jump in with both feet. You don't have to skydive into a change. It's just really about big changes can really start with some small steps. And if you're looking at, kind of making some changes, how can we kind of piece those little small steps together to get you where you might want to be maybe a year from now?
And with that, we have some resources. We referenced some of these during the presentation. They're also in the doc. Check those out. And then here are our resources for you. Our services are free for Alumni Forever. That's one of the great things that we're able to offer. So you can check out our resources online, and you can actually meet with us, do some career assessments, set up a one-on-one meeting. We usually do talk with some folks after we do these workshops that just follow up and want to have more of like a one-on-one chat, Zoom, phone, in person, whatever works. So, and feel free to reach out to us directly. And we will take some questions today, but just so that you know, the resources are available to you. And at any time you can reach out just with questions if that might be something that would fit for you.
Yeah. Just another, where the Career Center is also doing another workshop. Molly Stonecipher and Jill Klasny are going to be doing another workshop on March 7th from 12 to 1 about, again, kind of following up on this topic, making a career change or career pivot. You know, what are some of the trends and transitions and skills that you might need? So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up with that. And with that, that's the end of our presentation point. So we can go ahead and take questions. I know we're kind of running up on a little bit of time here, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kind of open it up to any questions that you might have.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Sue and Cheryl, for leading us through that conversation. Fascinating. I think we all can relate to well-being within the workplace and finding balance. It can be very challenging. So thank you for that. As Sue mentioned, we are now transitioning to our Q&A, and we have a few minutes. But if you do have questions that you would like to bring up, use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. And I know a few of you had submitted questions earlier through the registration, and so I have a few of those that will kick it off, but feel free at any time to submit a question. So I think what we'll start with, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you have any strategies or recommendations on how to set boundaries at work? So maybe examples of working overload or avoiding burnout. And specifically, I know there was some comments about working from home. Do you have any sort of recommendations on how to, address and set those boundaries?
I mean, I think we all have our own style. Like Sue said, some of us are more, cliff dive type folks, but taking small steps, I think knowing what you want to work towards, it makes you more passionate about being able to decline or set limits. And if it's in a workplace and your boundaries are, not being respected on a regular basis, I mean, that's all information of, again, to look at, is this the right fit career-wise? Sometimes if there's things you want to pursue, you want to take more classes, or you want to, have more time for social time or family. The more you know what that is, what you're wanting to work towards, I think it's easier to set boundaries. And even if it's saying, I'm sorry, I can't stay late, I have an appointment, even if it's an appointment to play board games with your family or whatever, I have a commitment or things like that. But it helps, I think, that's why we try to look at both sides. It helps to know, like, I want more of this. So then you know what you can say no to, and it maybe empowers you a little bit more to do that.
Yeah.
And especially with, I think that factors too into the, looking at the how much people are looking for extroverting and or introverting in their life, and then being able to speak up on topics like that too, of like, I want more time in the office, I want less time. I maybe it's that way I have too many meetings, I have not enough meetings. But to be able to kind of pinpoint what you want, and then, advocate for yourself on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is, again, it depends on you and your role in your organization and everything like that. I know that for us, we do have control over our calendars to a certain respect, or to a certain degree, like normal working hours, but can you flex those hours a little bit? So for you, can you work 7:30 to 3:30 or work 9 to 5 or something like that, that can kind of work on that piece of it. The other thing is, and again, within that calendar, we also do have the flexibility to block time on our calendars if we know we've got a big project we're working on. So again, it kind of depends on your role and everything. But I think you would also be surprised at, again, I don't know what your relationship is with your boss or your supervisor, but just having conversations with them about, here's, can I have more time for this? Or can I, my plate is full. I don't feel like I can take on additional responsibilities right now, but can we revisit this conversation down the road? Or even people who respond to emails all the time. It's like, maybe I will look at emails between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. or whatever, so kind of being able to set your own boundaries, depending on your role in your organization.
Great, thank you. So if someone is choosing that it's maybe time to make a career change, are there, and I think you mentioned a few of these, but are there any assessment tools that you might recommend for someone looking to explore or make a change in their job?
Mhm. Well, I know Cheryl loves the assessments. Do you want to talk about the assessments a little bit, Cheryl?
I do. So it's just a way to reflect. Honestly, I mean, we don't get answers just from pieces of paper or, online assessments or whatever. But if it's a helpful jumping off point to just get more in tune with your values, your interests, your strengths, your personality. I mean, there's useful information in all, and you can see in our links there that there's everything from free assessments to ones that alums do get a bargain. They're only $20. Sometimes you might do something like this somewhere else and it's like, $100 or more. So there's a lot of things that you have access to as an alum. But even if you want to do a free assessment, check it out and reach out and just chat more. Sometimes it's just bouncing ideas off of. You can say, hey, here I took this and here's what I got. And, I want to process that or talk about it. So I think, yeah, any of them can be good for various reasons. And you can meet with one of us to just decide, or meet with anyone in our office to decide which one might be a good fit for just kind of where you're at and the questions you're trying to answer. There's a lot of questions on re-careering I've seen even in the Q&A here, as well as some of the questions that were submitted ahead of time, maybe trying to get back into something or going a new direction. So, sometimes that can just help solidify even again what you're working towards. I want to go back to school, but what do you want to study? I want to go to a different job, and I think I might have the skills, but you might want to know kind of what you're working towards first. I saw there was a question posted there that had to do with maybe stepping back and not doing something in the particular career path they were in. I mean, I can't speak to every case, but I'm going to say there's been a lot of forgiveness in the last few years. COVID and multiple factors there have been a lot of shifts where people have changed jobs, left jobs, stepped back intentionally for various reasons, been taking care of family, whatever. So I think just societally speaking and in the career world, there's forgiveness and there's more of like Sue said, we're our whole person when we come to work. So if you didn't work for a while or you made some intentional choices, I think just, we can help you just share that in a way that you feel comfortable as to like why that was a benefit or, why you chose to do that and how that's, even further inspired you in the direction you're going now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect place. Maybe the both of you can tag team this last question here. Again, you've been sharing a lot about the resources, but in terms of resources specifically for UMD alumni in the Career Center, can you talk a little bit more about that to close us out for today?
Sure. So alumni have access to all the resources that our current students do. You can meet with us one-on-one. We've got lots of resources on our website. So that would also include, having these conversations about what, I'm at a different place now than when I graduated 2 years, 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years ago. What do I want now? I need to kind of unpack that a little bit. And to Cheryl's point, the career assessments can be very helpful in regard to that in terms of what am I looking at right now? Because really, it really comes down to you and kind of to what our conversation was today is who am I today? What do I want now? What do I want now that I know a little bit more about maybe the organization or the world of work or what my strengths are? Now, what do I want to do? How do I want to kind of pivot? So we're absolutely here to work with you to kind of help you unpack that. You have access to all the assessments, all the resources on our website, which includes resume reviews. We can help you with your LinkedIn profile or just have those conversations about how do I even start researching some of these different areas that I am thinking about and making connections.
Anything to add, Cheryl?
Yeah, I mean, our office has always worked with alums. It's one of the advantages of going to a medium-sized campus. We have the capacity to continue to serve our alums and our current students. So I've always, I mean, like I said, I started this job and it was like 2008, 2009, and people that graduated decades ago are coming in for appointments. So, I mean, it's just a normal part of our day to meet with alumni. I don't know that everybody knows that. And particularly at times like when COVID hit, again, there were times where I was working with more alums than current students even. So, it's something we enjoy doing and it adds some just different perspectives, and keeps our job interesting. So we're happy to meet, connect, provide resources, because it is a lifelong journey.
Perfect. Well, I just want to thank again both of you for sharing with us today. And I know that well-being is a personal thing. And so if you have questions that weren't answered and you would like to meet with Cheryl or Sue, their contact information is on the document that I'll be sending in the follow-up email. So this is definitely much more of, can be a personal journey. So I just wanted to open that up. And then also we have another career workshop coming up on the 13th of February, where we are talking about understanding Social Security. So we're going to be kind of taking some shifts, but I hope that everyone will plan on joining us for that. And again, thank you so much to both of you, and we hope you all have a great day. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for attending.
Bye
Thank
now.
you, everyone.